I know I'm not supposed to talk about this, but I just can't keep quiet. I need to tell someone about what happened to me and my fellow airmen back in early 2014. I was stationed at Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, Japan, and Uncle Sam had blessed us with the PA Poseidon, a modified Boeing 737 that the US Navy turned into a top-of-the-line surveillance plane. It was relatively new to the region, and nothing felt better than knowing that you were in the latest and greatest submarine patrol aircraft on the face of the earth. It was loaded with tons of fun toys at our disposal to remind the People's Republic that we don't take kindly to it bullying our allies. We had torpedoes, depth charges, slammer missiles, harpoon anti-ship missiles, and surveillance equipment so powerful we felt like we were on first-name basis with half the staff at the PLAAF airbase on the Paracel Islands after only a couple of ops. It was like being the rich kid on the block, the one whose parents didn't just buy him a new bike, but instead went all out and bought him a Ducati. We had done some pretty standard flights in the first few months. Fly around the islands off Okinawa, maybe a patrol or two about 100 miles off the coast of mainland China, doing little more than dropping sonobuoys and intercepting a radio transmission or two that were nothing of note. Then word came down that we were to do a relatively close flyby of Hainan Island, following pretty much the same route that a Navy EP-3 flew during the infamous Hainan Island incident. Our briefing was pretty bare bones, but suffice to say, we were supposed to investigate a mysterious signal another patrol had encountered the day before, originating from somewhere in the ocean near Hainan. This route would give us 70 miles separation from Hainan's coastline and keep us 100 miles away from the PLAAF installation on the Paracel Islands. There was a little animosity amongst the crew, but bravado and rough humor diffused the situation pretty quickly. I recall our co-pilot suggesting that his life would be easier if he just deserted, went native, and took one of the local girls as his wife. My friendly reminder that he didn't speak a word of Japanese didn't stop him from informing me that I was welcome to fornicate with any local livestock I could find. Happy or not, we soon found ourselves loaded up on our Poseidon and heading along the same path that EP-3 took on that fateful day back in 2001. The trip to Hainan itself was quite boring, which was fine by me. We had been in the air for a little over 7 hours doing our regular business when we could see the coast of Hainan off in the distance. The trip had pretty much just consisted of scanning the radar to see civilian aircraft moving along their pathways, as was expected. When we reached the target area, we dropped 200 feet to drop sonobuoys and let the sensors do their thing, scanning the waters beneath us. 10 minutes crept by with not so much as a peep from my instrumental panel. Just as I was beginning to feel more relaxed, one of my sensors pinged a contact about 90 feet beneath the waves. The contact didn't fit the characteristics of any submarine I knew of, and it's my job to recognize the sonar signatures of submarines. For one, it was moving way more than what is expected of a submarine. The network of sonobuoys we had deployed picked up something clipping along at an unbelievable 300 knots. I did a double take. There's no nation in the world that has a sub that can go that fast. The Russians had one back in the Cold War that could maybe go 45 knots, but that was just ludicrous. It was weaving back and forth in a serpentine pattern so fast that it was jumping across the display. It was moving so fast that our systems couldn't even track it in real time. On top of all this, the signature was very faint. If we hadn't had top-of-the-line sensors on board, I doubt we would have been able to pick up the contact at all. There were two possibilities to explain the faint signature. Possibility A: the contact had some sort of a stealth capability that was doing the damnedest to fool our sensors. Possibility B: the contact was very small, maybe just a bit longer than the short bus the Marine grunts take to work in the morning. I was mulling this over in my head when the contact disappeared from my screen. 3 of the sonoboys had stopped sending information, and as I reached for my comms, a 4th one went dark as well. Not good. I radioed the pilot and told him what I'd seen, asking that we double back to see if we could re-establish contact. He was happy to oblige. Pride runs deep in the Marine Patrol community, and you do not want to be known as the crew who lost a sub. We set a heading for the last known position and ready to drop more boys. As we neared the spot where contact was lost, my air radar let out a gentle beep, signifying the entrance of a new bogey in our airspace. I hunched over the display, watching as the blip careened from side to side in our direction while maintaining the same 300 knot velocity. It was so unexpected that I found myself unable to look away as the contact carried out maneuvers at an impossible 15 feet above the surface of the sea. Weird approach or not, this was an undeniable intercept course with our plane, and we would be close enough to shake hands in moments unless one of us changed course. The contact disappeared from display, snapping me out of my temporarily stupefied state. I quickly notified the pilot that we had company, about 45 seconds out. He acknowledged, but informed me that the skies were clear as far as he could see. The notion of equipment malfunction began to creep into my mind when the blip appeared once more. This time, it was at 200 feet, our exact operating altitude. It had made a huge distance gain on us in a short period of time. I heard the pilot scream in surprise before my whole world turned into a sudden whirlwind of turbulence. Without warning, the laws of physics decided that everything not bolted down needed to be in another part of the plane right now. Unfortunately, I was one of those objects. Our PA pulled up and banged starboard, sending me tumbling out of my chair and rolling towards the aft of the plane. I had taken off my safety harness when I visited the chem pod about 2 hours prior and had simply forgotten to put it back on. Yeah, I know it's regulation to be strapped in, and shame on me for not being by the book. Buckle yourself or go fuckle yourself, one of my instructors used to say. I was most definitely being fuckled right now. Engine 1 is out, the pilot yelled over the comms. I go back to my feet about 2 stations away from where I started. 3 meters doesn't seem like a long distance until you're ragdolled that distance with a sudden stop 5 seconds later. Another crew member offered an outstretched hand to help me stabilize, and I gratefully took it and started to make my way back to my seat. Bandits making another pass. Brace! The plane shuddered as it bit into a hard turn, stalling my attempt to return to my post. I was about to try and inch my way back to the safety of my seat when the whole station was torn apart from my eyes. Before my eyes. Bullets ripped through the fuselage, sending fragments of metal and plastic flying in all directions. I dropped to the ground, covering my head with my arms, as a shower of sparks and debris rained all around me. It was over in seconds. Well, by over, I mean I wasn't getting shot at anymore. We still were in full-on evasive maneuvers, and I needed to find somewhere to bunker down before I got tossed again. I located a fortunately placed grab handle I could brace myself against. Feeling a little more in control of my destiny, I looked around to get my bearings. I was at the midship emergency exit hatch, just over the port side wing. There was a porthole window on this door. You know, the little window you're supposed to look through to make sure you aren't escaping into a fire? And it was giving me the most unsettling view of the attack I could imagine. He's back! Look out! I didn't need the warning. I could see our assailant clear as day through my window. I was stunned to see that it was an old prop-powered fighter plane. It was a dark green color with a large red circle just behind the cockpit on the fuselage. I'm no historian, but I know a World War II Japanese plane when I see one. Growing up, I had quite the fascination with these old planes, but now, my childhood dreams had manifested themselves as a lethal nightmare. The fighter came at us in an obtuse angle attack run, catching up to our bird with little effort, most likely facilitated by us only being powered by one engine now. I could recognize the type of plane at this point. It was a Mitsubishi A5M carrier-based fighter. Just like the model one I used to have hanging from a fishing line in my childhood bedroom. Twin flashes pulsated along its underbelly as it let loose with a machine gun, ornament peppering our tail section and rudder. "Controls are down, boys. This isn't good." Like a vulture sweeping in on carrion, the Proto-Zero performed a lazy gliding turn and set course to intersect with us once more. Shockingly, the expected kill shot didn't come. Instead, I saw the fighter pull up alongside us and match our speed like you see in old World War movies, where a pilot pulls up in his defeated foe to look him in the eye and decide his fate. But nothing about this felt like an honorable aerial duel of yore. When the plane reached its mark alongside our bird, I was able to get a look at it. Well, the seemingly empty space where there was supposed to be a pilot. A faint blue glow was emanating from within while shadows danced across the glass panes of the canopy. I was completely transfixed, mesmerized as a child would be by fireworks. Then I saw the hand. Amidst the playful light, a hand clawed at the bullet-resistant glass as though something within was attempting to break out. The owner of the hand made an appearance soon after. It was a young man, no older than 20, rising up from the cramped pilot's compartment and blearily looking around as if he wasn't entirely sure where he was. Finally, he looked right in my direction, his face a twisted mask of pain and sorrow, but overlaid with a hint of surprise, as though he just realized he was attacking another plane. His hand snapped to attention, grabbing at what must have been where the flight controls were located. He frantically pulled at them, throwing the full weight of his body against the controls, but to no avail. He turned to me, and I could see him yelling, his mouth agape while his breath left patches of fog against the canopy. He banged against the glass for about 20 seconds in a vain attempt to free himself from his high-speed prison. Sobbing, he stopped and stared into my eyes. He began to write something on the fogged glass, but I could hardly make it out. I thought I knew what it said, but before I could be positive, the plane veered sharply away. I watched him leave with dread. This wasn't the type of turn you would typically see when a pilot was breaking off engagement. This was one of those hard turns, aggressive and mean and full of flight. The fighter was going to make another pass while we sailed along with one engine and a badly damaged rudder. Sitting duck always sounds like a fun expression, until you are the sitting duck. Worse still is knowing that you are a sitting duck leading up to a kill shot. Second after excruciating second slide by while you wait for the inevitable. He's coming in for the kill, and he's brought a friend. That made my stomach turn. 2 of them? Looks like we're sailing the Poo-Poo River without a boat, let alone a paddle. There was no way we could. I stuck by my window, and sure enough, the A5M entered into a visual range before long. His friend wasn't an A5M at all. In fact, it was a Corsair, another old fighter, but one that had been used by American carriers. Apparently, the years hadn't cooled things between them as they danced before me, guns blazing away. Their dogfights took them all over the place. One erratic turn would send them racing in our direction, while another would push them further away. I took a good look at the Corsair as it made a pass. It had the same blue light coming from it as the first fighter did. Something gnawing at the back of my mind told me that if I were to see a pilot inside the American plane, he wouldn't be any happier than the Japanese one was. They were both prisoners to the bloodthirsty spirits that had taken up residence inside their warbirds. The dogfight continued to ebb and flow both towards us, and away, but there was a gradual trend of them getting further and further away. After about 5 minutes, they were just specks on the horizon. You could lose them from sight every now and then before making out the flash of machine gun fire and locating them again. As for us, we limped back to our base in Okinawa. The whole crew was pretty shaken up, and it was quite the treat to explain to our superiors how a World War II aircraft flown by a blue light knocked the crap out of us over the South China Sea. But that was all okay, because we were rescued by another World War II aircraft flown by the same blue light. The whole crew was sent for one-on-one debriefings, and even the ground crew we interacted with were brought in to make sure they knew what did and did not happen. Nothing happened as far as the Navy was concerned. We were sworn to secrecy and reminded about how the government could find very, very deep, dark holes to dispose of annoying people. I just can't stop thinking of that young pilot's face though. I still have nightmares about what happened, but in my dreams, I can make out what that Japanese pilot was writing on the cockpit's glass. It says, "Forgive me." He's begging for forgiveness so he can be released from his living hell. Deep down, I know that those two pilots may never find peace, and they're still out there, fighting and suffering.